Okay, I have no idea if this is working. I have been trying to get this to broadcast simultaneously on Zoom and Facebook Live. It worked okay yesterday. Didn't give me any trouble, but so far today it's been giving me nothing but trouble, so I have no idea if this is working. And if somebody out there in the world could check on our Facebook page and let me know whether we're actually broadcasting live there or not, that would be great, so I know for the future. But if not, I'll try to figure it out later. This is Alex at the Penn Public Library Facebook page. So hope we are reaching some people there through both Zoom and Facebook simultaneously. Okay, regardless, I'm recording it so I can get this out to people later if necessary. But yeah, welcome to another edition of Libby Recommendations, where your public library staff shares titles of books that you can find on our ebook and e-audiobook platform, Libby. And if you have any questions about accessing Libby, ebooks, e-audiobooks, and all that stuff, you can always contact us by email at info@pypl.org. And today we're going to talk about biography and memoir. So we have some excellent recommendations. Last time we did this, we did sci-fi and fantasy. And we got some good recommendations from Youth Services librarian Sarah. Today we have a lot of recommendations from our inimitable executive director, Angela, who is a biography and memoir fiend. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first recommendation from Angela is The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates. And as it says in the write-up for the book, in a quote from Ms. Gates, "How can we summon a moment of lift for human beings, and especially for women? Because when you lift up women, you lift up humanity." And if you've been following any of the work being done in the international sustainability movement, maybe through books dealing with how to build a more sustainable future, you'll find that one of the #1 things that we can do in this world is to uplift women through education and opportunities. And Melinda Gates is in an excellent position to certainly write on that topic and provide opportunities in that regard. And I should also mention that a lot of these recommendations given to us by Angela today are e-audiobooks. A lot of people go into Libby expecting to just find e-books, but if you're an audiobook listener, you can find a lot of audiobooks as well. And it's also always a good idea, if you're looking for a particular title and you can't find it in ebook format, maybe search for it as an audiobook and consider listening to it that way, or vice versa. If you want an audiobook and either we don't have the audiobook or the audiobook is checked out, consider reading the ebook. All right. Then we've got Over the Top by Jonathan Van Ness. You might recognize this character from the recently rebooted Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. As it says in the description of the book, before he stole our hearts as the grooming and self-care expert on Netflix's hit show Queer Eye, Jonathan was growing up in a small Midwestern town that didn't understand why he was so over the top. From choreographed carpet figure skating routines to the unavoidable fact that he was just so gay, Jonathan was an easy target and endured years of judgment, ridicule, and trauma, yet none of it crushed his uniquely effervescent spirit. And it's that spirit of resilience that I think we could all learn from in moments like these, as we're all dealing with this pandemic together. Maybe reading a book like this can help you let go of some of your prejudices, while at the same time maybe finding ways that you yourself can endure by going over the top. I think we all deserve to go over the top now and then. Then we've got Life Will Be the Death of Me by Chelsea Handler, another e-audiobook. You might be familiar with Chelsea Handler's talk show. This is her memoir. The funny, sad, super honest, all true story of Chelsea Handler's year of self-discovery, featuring a nerdily brilliant psychiatrist, a shaman, 4 chow-chows, some well-placed security cameras, various family members, living and departed, friends, assistants, and don't be shocked, Mr. and Mrs. America, a lot of edibles. That's marijuana, in case you're not up on that. Thrillingly honest, insightful, and deeply, darkly funny, Chelsea Handler's memoir keeps readers laughing, even as it inspires us to look within and ask ourselves what really matters in our own lives. And I know that Ms. Handler's memoir delves deeply into a lot of the current events that we have all been living through over the past few years and her personal experiences with those. So another great public figure laying it all out for us. This is I haven't read this one, but I'm looking forward to this one, and I'm glad that Angela recommended it. The Witches Are Coming by Lindy West. In this wickedly funny cultural critique, the author of the critically acclaimed memoir and Hulu series Shrill exposes misogyny in the Me Too era. And as the author and the description of the book say, this is a witch hunt. We're witches, and we're hunting you. And I have a special place in my heart for witches, and though the popular conception of witches is of women who practice dark magic for evil purposes, that is, of course, a very self-serving interpretation of what a witch is on the part of the world's patriarchy. Sorry, it's true. And really a good definition I have found for a witch is any woman in any time and any place who has refused to put her head down and accept the dominant narrative of what men and women should be and what life should be. So yeah, it's a witch hunt. We should all be witches, and we should all hunt out those elements of society that keep people down. On another note, here is a book called How to Be a Good Creature, a Memoir in 13 Animals by Cy Montgomery. From tarantulas to tigers, Cy's life continually intersects with and is informed by the creatures she meets. This restorative memoir reflects on the personalities and quirks of 13 animals, Cy's friends, and the truths revealed by their grace. So, better living through understanding our animal friends, our creature friends. And we are all creatures, are we not? Here's one for my brother and people who grew up in the 80s and early 90s. Beastie Boys book by Beastie Boys. As you see, there's the Beastie Boys there on the cover of Beastie Boys book. A panoramic experience that tells the story of Beastie Boys, a book as unique as the band itself, by band members Ad Rock and Mike D, with contributions from Amy Poehler, Colson Whitehead, Wes Anderson, Luke Sante, and more. With a style as distinctive and eclectic as a Beastie Boys album, Beastie Boys book upends the typical music memoir, featuring a collection of voices reminiscent of your favorite mixtape. And it certainly does sound like, if you're a fan of some of those sort of oral history books that explain the histories of some of our favorite cultural touchstones. I know that a number of years ago, Saturday Night Live put out an oral history book where all the living members that they could corral of the cast and crew over the years all sort of talked about what it meant to be a part of Saturday Night Live. Sounds like this is a similar concept with the Beastie Boys, with the perspectives of people who grew up listening to and appreciating their music. And it is a tumultuous story indeed. Here is a major one that should be required reading. She Said by Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey. Carlos Lozada of the Washington Post says that this is an instant classic of investigative journalism. All the President's Men for the Me Too era. And of course, we know the cultural, social, and political impact of books like All the President's Men. And so this certainly is a book that in its inauguration of the Me Too moment in our history deserves a place on that at that same level. And in case you're not familiar, this is from the Pulitzer Prize-winning reporters who broke the news of Harvey Weinstein's sexual harassment and abuse for the New York Times, of a thrilling, untold story of their investigation and its consequences for the Me Too movement. Of course, the Me Too movement, as we all know, predated the breaking of this story, but I think it's safe to say that a great deal of further momentum was gained by the open acknowledgement of one particular powerful predator's lifetime of abuses and his subsequent downfall. So a key book to understanding this moment in our history. Here's one of my favorites. And again, we've got the audiobook here, and I think listening to the audiobook, I read this book a number of years ago, but I think hearing it narrated by its subject and author, Tina Fey, is undoubtedly an amazing experience if you have appreciated her comic styling since Saturday Night Live and 30 Rock. She's just amazing, self-deprecating, incisive, modern, and yet oddly traditional. BOSSYPANTS is just, it's an amazing story of her life and her career. So as it says, before Liz Lemon, before Weekend Update, before Sarah Palin, Tina Fey was just a young girl with a dream, a recurring stress dream that she was being chased through a local airport by her middle school gym teacher. She also had a dream that one day she would be a comedian on television. She has seen both of those dreams come true. And that little description is just indicative of Tina Fey's madcap and heartwarming humor. This book needs no introduction, yet here I am introducing it anyway. Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. This is, of course, the book that inspired Lin-Manuel Miranda to write the blockbuster, culture-defining, era-shifting Broadway musical Hamilton, which, if you have not listened to it, where have you been for the past, half decade or so? But this is the book that I think the story goes that Lin-Manuel Miranda was on his way for vacation or something. I don't know if his flight was delayed or maybe he picked it up in the airport bookstore just as a last minute, realizing he'd need something to read on the beach or whatever. But one way or another, he ended up with this book and a lot of time to read it and think about it. And an amazing musical was born. And this book, as daunting as its size may be, is... it's novelistic, it's exciting, it's propulsive, it's educational and informative. If you are at all interested in the founding era of our country, this is a book to definitely plow through. And as it says here, in the first full-length biography of Alexander Hamilton in decades, Ron Chernow tells the riveting story of a man who overcame all odds to shape, inspire, and scandalize the newborn America. According to historian Joseph Ellis, Alexander Hamilton is a robust, full-length portrait, in my view, the best ever written of the most brilliant, charismatic, and dangerous founder of them all. And really, there would be no modern America without polyglot, immigrant, worldly, urbane, cosmopolitan Alexander Hamilton. So it's not all Virginia. It's, he was a New York boy immigrant, and he shaped America. And finally, we've got CALYPSO by David Sedaris. This is a book that I have not yet read. It is, I believe, his latest, but I'm a huge fan of David Sedaris. And given the description of this book, it seems like a worthy and somewhat unexpected continuation of the zany life and family stories that Sedaris tells. If you're familiar with his work, you know how zany his family can be. He grew up with a passel of brothers and sisters. He was a gay man growing up in the South in the changing decades of the 70s and 80s. You might be familiar with his sister Amy Sedaris from her Comedy Central show, Strangers with Candy, and she's been a perennial comedic staple throughout shows like the Colbert Show and things like that for the years since. But David Sedaris has his own unique humoristic voice, and I mean that literally. If you can find the audiobook of this or any of his works, please do yourself a favor and listen to them. Not only is his authorly, writerly voice what we talk about when we talk about how a writer's work conveys his identity, an amazing voice. He's also just got an amazing, literal voice to listen to. It's got a unique quality that can't be described. But this sounds like both a worthy continuation, but also surprisingly dark. So I'm looking forward to reading this. As it says here, David Sedaris returns with his most deeply personal and darkly hilarious book. If you've ever laughed your way through David Sedaris's cheerfully misanthropic stories, you might think you know what you're getting with CALYPSO. You'd be wrong. When he buys a beach house on the Carolina coast, Sedaris envisions long, relaxing vacations spent playing board games and lounging in the sun with those he loves most. And life at the C-section, as he names the vacation home, is exactly as idyllic as he imagined, except for one tiny, vexing realization. It's impossible to take a vacation from yourself. That just sounds amazing. And the book apparently deals with mortality and aging. I know at least one of his siblings has passed away in recent years, so I'm sure that plays into where he is in life right now. And it's important to think about these things before we're forced to. So, and if you can do it with humor and wit, like David Sedaris always brings to bear, then all the better. So, check it out, literally from Libby, if it is available. Again, if you have any questions about using Libby, you can contact the library at info@pypl.org. You can download Libby on your smartphone, your tablet. You can create an account, search for the Southern Tier Library System, and just plug in your library card number and your PIN number. That's the last 4 digits of the phone number that we've got on file for you, and listen away. All right, I will share all of these titles in the comments, so do not worry about trying to jot them all down or anything if you haven't already. And we will check in again in another couple of weeks with more recommendations. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe. Bye-bye.